We're going to replace the water pump in this '05 Buick Lasabre, very similar to the Bonneville or Impala, and the Monte Carlo with the 3/8 engine. Let's see what it's about. The water pump is located right here in the center of the engine. The first thing we're going to do is drain the coolant from the radiator to minimize spills. Put a catch pan under the radiator on the driver's side. You will see a plastic bolt going into the radiator straight up at the corner of the radiator. In some radiators, the plastic drain plug is a butterfly head, and in some it's a 19mm. It shouldn't be on too tight. You can see it through the bumper at the right angle. If you have to, you can gently use pliers or a socket and extension from the bottom. Once you see it, you can loosen it without jacking up the car, but it does make it easier if the front is jacked up a bit. Once you drain all the coolant, install the drain plug. Get it tight. Careful not to break it, especially with a pan underneath. Next, we're going to start by loosening the 4 bolts that hold the water pump pulley. We're going to try to use the tension of the belt to keep the pulley from turning. If that doesn't hold the pulley, fear not, as I have you covered. Put a wrench on one of the bolts and put another one on another, and force the wrenches to join. One of them will loosen. Next, go to the next pair and loosen another bolt. To remove the last bolt, you will need to leave 2 bolts that are loosened halfway and stick a long screwdriver or any tool you can fit in between the 2 bolts and use that for leverage while loosening the last bolt. The bolt should be loosened, but not completely removed, as first you remove the belt. You will need a 15mm wrench to turn the tensioner bolt and get slack on the belt. Slide the belt off the alternator. Watch your fingers. Get the belt out of the way. Now we remove the pulley bolts all the way. The pulley should slide right off. Next, we're going to remove the water pump. There are 8 bolts, 4 long ones and 4 short ones. Some of them will have a lot of crust on them from the old Dex Cool antifreeze. From here you can see all the bolt holes. They're pretty easy to get to, although you can't see all of them very well. The large bolts are the 2 on the right here, 13mm, and also the 2 on the left here. Small ones are scattered around the center, 3/8 inch. If the bolts seem very hard to loosen, even after broken free, then tighten and then loosen, back and forward until it softens. It might help to spray some PB Blaster on the bolt. You have 2 dowel pins. Once you remove all the bolts, you will need to pry the pump away from the engine. A thin, flathead screwdriver should work well. You can also tap the pump away from the engine with a rubber mallet. Here are the 2 pumps, the old and the new. Look at the difference of the fins. The old one was not moving any fluid. Next, we're going to clean the surface of the engine that meets the water pump. I like to use a blade by itself, as it makes it easy to get into tight places with the perfect angle. It takes a little getting used to getting a good grip. Get the surface nice and clean. Wipe it with a clean rag. I also use a solvent, such as brake parts cleaner. Now we clean all the bolts that have crust on them. I like to use a wire brush. The easiest way to clean them is to strike the affected area with the bristles of the brush, while turning the bolt with the other hand, or in a vise. Next, we prepare the pump. We will put RTV on both sides of the gasket to get a perfect trouble-free seal. I like the red kind against antifreeze. Make sure you have a nice thin layer anywhere it meets the pump or the engine. Next, apply a thin layer of RTV on the clean threads so the same thing doesn't happen again, and antifreeze won't leak through the threads. To install the pump, you keep a bolt ready nearby, while slowly setting the pump in place on the dowel pin. Install all the bolts. Hand tighten for all, and then tighten the small ones to 11 foot-pounds, and the large ones to 15 foot-pounds. I tighten them in 2 steps. Make sure all the bolts are nice and tight. Next, we install the pulley. Hand tighten the bolts until the belt is installed. Set the belt into place, and while applying pressure to the tensioner, slide the belt on the alternator. Make sure the belt is sitting perfectly in its place on each of the pulleys. Here is the belt diagram for you. Now tighten the bolt for the water pump pulley. The tension on the belt should keep the pulley from turning, and you can put your hand on the belt to add some tension. That's it. Make sure you fill it up with antifreeze. Hopefully you clean the system from the old deck spool. A garden hose works well, and if you remove the thermostat, the system will clean out much better. I use green universal antifreeze instead of the deck spool. Make sure to bleed the air out of the system. It should bleed pretty well by itself. Just add antifreeze after letting it cool for a few minutes a few times, until it doesn't accept it anymore. You're all done. Start the engine. It might squeak for a bit if you had any antifreeze around the belt. In a few days, check the level of the antifreeze you didn't lose any, and if you did, add some. I hope you enjoyed this video. Good luck on your project. If you have any comments, please write to me down here. Thank you for watching. If you would like to see many more tips for auto repair work that will surely help you with this and other repairs, watch a tips video here. You're done. I hope you enjoyed the video. As always, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe and leave me comments below.